So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for staying to the end of the conference. We have 1,000 people here, which is pretty good, actually, for an end of conference. I've had the experience of addressing 22 people at a conference closing ceremony in a room that held 5,500. So this is a definite improvement. I want to say a few things. I want to say thank you, first of all, to my family, who've put up with me thinking about this for the last 7 years. My wife and my daughter are here. I want to say thank yous to my local organizing committee, without whom none of this would have happened, and quite a few of them are here. I want to say really sincere thanks to Floris, Robert, Jessica, Lydia, and Jose and the rest of the team at EUPHA and EPH, because they do the hard spade work of making this happen. I want to thank our venue, the CCD, who I think you will agree have looked after us really well. The number of people who come up to me and said how nice the staff are, how friendly they are, is extraordinary. I want to thank Greg Carew and his colleagues at Abbey, particularly Emma Conlon, who organised the hosting. So all the people in blue T-shirts work for Abbey Travel, and a large proportion of them are volunteers. And without all those people, none of this would have happened. So thank you. So it's been an interesting couple of days. I've certainly learned a lot. We've got to ask ourselves, how are we going to take some of the stuff that's come out of this forward? Because talking about problems with food and sustainability is not going to change anything. We actually have to change what we do. The conference has tried in its own very small way to be as sustainable as possible, but that's obviously difficult. But I think each of us needs to go to wherever we're from and work and reflect on how we can make the lives around us more sustainable, how we can bring together evidence for sustainability and push it in other organizations. Because one of the things that comes out of the research is that people often change behavior because somebody they know asks them. Somebody they know suggests it to them. I think that's an important piece that public health professionals can add to the mix. So I'm urging you to go out and carry on with this agenda. I'm going to introduce two people now. The first is my very good colleague and friend, Gillian Paul. And Gillian is a public health nurse who is my co-chair for this session. So you have to step a little bit further out so people can see you. And the second is Paul O'Brien. Paul is an amazing man. The last time I met him, we were at the Planning Championships in Ratheniska. But he's a London lad of Irish ancestry who now farms, and who always wanted to be a farmer, and now farms a dry stock farm of about 220 acres in Kilkenny. In his copious spare time, he's the environmental chair for the Irish Farmers Association, which is the largest of the farming associations in Ireland and one of the largest in the world. He seems, from his account of his diary, to spend a great deal of his time whizzing around forwards and back to Brussels, working to bring forward sustainable farming, to bring forward environmentally effective farming, to ensure that there's a dialogue between what you might call the environmental segment and the farming segment, and it's an effective dialogue. It's a positive and creative dialogue. And there are tensions, and there are unresolved tensions. This week, the European Union passed a new set of laws on nature protection, and those laws are going to pose significant challenges for farming and for food supply. So that has to be dealt with. But I'm going to introduce you to Paul, who will tell you a lot more about this than I can. Paul.
Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. And after that announcement, there's only one way I can go, and that's downhill. So I'll try and do my very, very best. So look, just say I'm delighted and honoured to be invited to this event here today and in the closing ceremony, and to talk to so many people who are experts in their field. I too am an expert in my field. It's that one there. I am a sheep farmer and a tillage farmer based in Graydon Manor in Kilkenny. I've been farming here since 1986. As Anthony said, I inherited the farm and I decided to come back, turn my back on the big city and go back to where I always wanted to, which was the countryside. So look, some of my roles, as you said, I am a sheep farmer, most certainly. That's the first thing I would class myself as, even though I am involved in farming, politics and one thing or another. But I am most certainly a full-time farmer who's totally dependent on his farm every day in order to put one of my children through college, another daughter that's coming up, and hopefully Anya, my daughter, will probably be the farmer in a number of years' time. She's the one out of my 3 children who's showing the most interest. So other parts I'm involved with, as you see, like I'm in the Environmental and Mall Affairs Chairman. The IFA represents over 72,000 farmers and their families at local, regional, national and European level in order to hopefully maintain as many numbers of farmers going forward. And that's the key thing. Farming sustainably needs generation renewal. We always need a new generation of farmers to be involved with farming going forward. And there's a couple of little slides on at the end. I'm also involved in Cuddihy. Cuddihy is the European farmers and European co-ops, so millions of farmers who pay membership into farming organisations such as the Irish Farmers Association and also Cuddihy, which represents over 20,000 cooperatives, societies engaged in agriculture as its primary source. So I do a little bit of work from there, and as Anthony said, I'm off to Brussels now for the next 3 days in order to meet the Commission on Monday, and also the Working Party, where many farming groups will meet on Tuesday. So look, just I suppose a couple of things that I would really like to focus on today, and I suppose really linking the headlines of the whole conference, which is, a sustainable food, our health, our earth, a sustainable future for humanity. Now, what we need to do is, as a society, never like before, is unite and try to lead a way that's able to deliver food production systems better than before, recognising all of the key challenges that we have, whether it's climate change, whether it's biodiversity loss, but to feed a growing world. When I was born in the late 1960s, there was about 3.8 billion people on the planet. If I get to my life expectancy, and believe you me, I really hope to, we'd be probably looking at 10 billion people on the planet. The population of Germany every single year is increasing the world's population, about 80 million people year on year. So that's going to bring considerable challenges for us going forward. How do we produce food better? How do we produce food more sustainably? And how can we do that in a way that rewards farmers a fair living for their hard work? So I'm going to skip through some of the bits and pieces and some of the most important structures and some of the big key issues that are facing farmers. The big one at the moment is obviously the European Green Deal, farm to fork, and how food is prepared, how food is delivered in a sustainable way over the next number of years, particularly between now and 2030. So the farm to fork strategy was envisaged and designed by this present Commission in order to deliver many key benefits. Some of those benefits, as we know, is a much reduced level of input, so reduction in fertiliser, a reduction in pesticide usage, a large increase in the amount of organic farming that takes place, and also respect and an understanding of biodiversity loss and how we can reverse those trends. So the key thing on this, as a farmer, I am totally dependent 100% on the Common Agricultural Policy. That pays me effectively for my living. In many farm operations, the cost of production of those animals is effectively a zero benefit. Most years we probably lose money. So it's the Common Agricultural Policy that is the key driver of maintaining farm sustainability going forward. So back in 2019, Ursula von der Leyen announced the Green Deal. And from farming point of view, it was the farm to fork, looking at some key important things. So as we look, make sure Europeans get healthy, affordable food. Make sure we tackle climate change. Farmers are the only people in society that have the potential to absorb carbon, apart from building billions and billions and spending lots and lots of money on machines to try to take out carbon. But carbon sequestration and its importance is going to be considerably important. There's terms that you're going to become familiar with over the next number of years, things like carbon farming, the ability to suck carbon from the atmosphere and put it into the soil and holding it there. We've burnt 1,000 billion tons of legacy carbon. Farming is probably the only natural solution to try to reverse and to try to absorb all of that carbon. It's going to be a long journey. We're not going to be able to do it all, but most certainly farmers are prepared to meet that challenge. I suppose other things then, obviously protect the environment and preserve biodiversity. We've declared here in Ireland a biodiversity crisis, and my argument would be back to the policy developers. Sit down, work with farmers to design mechanisms that can be clearly put in place to allow farmers to be able to, go on that journey to improve biodiversity. But I cannot take a photograph of a hedgerow or a habitat to my local supermarket and buy food for my children. And that is a key point. We need to be supported on that journey. Fair income return for food chain. So as a farmer, I'm totally dependent on the market forces. I only need a certain amount of money to survive, believe you me. But what we cannot have is a system where we're always in crisis. We're always depending on a level of just above production costs, because just above production or hovering around production costs is never going to sustain a family farm going forward. And as I said before, a bigger increase in organic farming. So I'm just going to fly through this, and I'm sure there'll be a hook to pull me off in a minute because I'm going on for too long. But some of the big aspects of the Green Deal is a much bigger reduction of chemical fertilizer usage, a reduction of pesticide usage, and this is probably key to this conference. If we look at this part of the slide here, and antimicrobial resistance linked to the use of antimicrobials in animal and human health leads to an estimated 33,000 human deaths in the EU each year. Now, the Commission are going to try to reduce that by 50%. That by itself is going to be a challenge. But we have to work. We have to do this. We have to, as I've said before, work like never before for our common goals. I've already focused on the organic farming. Now, I'm not an organic farmer, even though I do not spread much fertilizer or pesticides. But the reality is that in a country like Ireland, we produce 8 times the amount of food that our own population can eat. We export to 180 countries around the world. So Ireland can actually feed Ireland, the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg. We do it well, and we do it very sustainably, but we need to do it better. We need to improve all of the above. So look, I'm not going to read all of this great statement out, but we have a vision here in Ireland which is called Food Vision 2030. Which looks at ways that we can develop food mechanisms and food production practices that take into account all of the challenges that we have. And I'd like to just to say to you is that even that is going to be a challenge by itself. We have a sectorial target where we have to reduce emissions from agriculture by 25% by the time we get to 2030. That will be a challenge, and it will depend on lots of new technologies that haven't been perfected yet in order to deliver that goal and that aspiration. And ultimately, as we go further to 2050, we'll have to do more and more and more of a reduction. But farmers are up for that challenge. But as I said, there does come a challenge for finances and for us to be supported on that journey. So organic farming, as I've said, it is a big aspiration. 25% of the EU is hoped the whole area will be in some form of organics by the 2030s. Ireland has set a target of 450,000 hectares, which is about close to 10% of our total land area. The problem I have with organics is that we always meet a price threshold. When something goes past a certain price, there's consumer resistance to this. The Common Agricultural Policy has been very good for the consumer, but for the farmer, it's been used now as I suppose, as a very historical model that there's no new funding going in. The budget is staying very much the same. With inflation, with other challenges, and being asked to do more and more and more, it's becoming very, very challenging. So I'm going to flick on just to one of the biggest concerns that I have, which is generation renewal in farming, not only in Ireland, but also in the European Union. And if we look at this, 94.8% in the year 2020 of EU farms are classed as being family farms. Like the United States, we're the opposite. The opposite of that, we have a family farm structure where most of the living on that farm has to be generated on that farm. So it's defined by 50% or more of regular labour is provided by family members. Well, even on my situation, I'm a full-time farmer, but I'm also dependent on my wife as well, who works as well, in order to sustain a family going forward. So in Ireland, in 2016, we had 99.7% of our farms are classed as family farms. So the small family farm structure is what we need to try to preserve going forward. But there's problems. The problems are that across the European Union, we are losing farmers. We've lost probably 37%, which means that we've lost 5.3 million farms between 2005 and 2020. Economics of scale is determining that farms will have to get larger in order for that economic model to be sustainable. So there's some of the challenges, and now Ireland has bucked the trend, and I'm just flying through some of these figures. Ireland's bucked the trend, which saw a 1.7 increase in the number of active farmers between 2005 and 2020. And the main reason for that was we had a very, very sharp economic downturn in 2007 to 2014, well, 13, and at that stage, many, many people decided to go back to agriculture instead of maybe developing an apprenticeship or going on to college or jobs. So look, generation renewal is a challenge for all Europe going forward. It's very, very hard to convince many, many people from a younger age to be engaged in agriculture. It's become a very unsexy industry, unfortunately, because I suppose we are in the spotlight when it comes to emissions, and emissions, we need to reduce emissions reduction. I think we all accept that. But we have to understand that food has to come from somewhere. We need a new generation of renewal coming forward in order to feed a world's population that is growing. So if you take a look at this, unfortunately, being in my mid-50s, I can no longer say that I'm in the 20.8% of Irish farm holders who are under 45. The average age of a farmer in Ireland is now 59 years of age. Vast tracts of the country that I go to, there is no successor coming along. The successor is now going off and having a farm income and is probably not going to farm. So that is a challenge in order to get a new generation of people farming. So look, the story of farming underscores a legacy of sustainability. There's some of the problems that we have. As a farmer, I want to work with policy makers to try to develop policies that clearly have multiple benefits. Sustain family farm production, reduce emissions, improve our climate credentials and our greening credentials, improve water quality, and also improve animal welfare. My last statement to you is this. As doctors and nurses and physicians and people who are engaged in this process, I might only need to see one of you once a year, hopefully for my checkup and given a clean bill of health. I might see a lawyer every 5 years. But you will need a farmer every day, 3 times a day. Thank you. Okay, that enough for that? Okay.
Thank you, Paul, for an excellent presentation. I think it's really important for us to hear the voice of the farmer and the food producer, given the theme of our conference over the last few days. It's a privilege for me now to introduce a video address from Mary Robinson, former President of Ireland, former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and founder of the Mary Robinson Foundation Climate Justice.
Greetings to all. I'm delighted that Dublin has been hosting the 16th European Public Health Conference, and I add my own warm welcome to those of you who've come specially to Dublin for the conference. Céad míle fáilte, 100,000 welcomes. I'd also like to commend and congratulate the small Irish team, and I know it's small, that has been able to put this conference together and have somewhere over 1,700 delegates participating, which is, I gather, a bigger number than usual. So more power to their work. The overall theme, our food, our health, our earth, a sustainable future for humanity, is one very close to my heart, one that I think about a lot, because it speaks to the intersectionality of these issues. I know that this is very much part of the discussion you will have had, the very close links between climate and health. Many of you will know better than me the number of deaths from serious heat now in our world, the warming that has been aggravated by the climate crisis, and which is getting worse. The number of heat deaths is very serious. You will know also the number of deaths from air pollution, much of it caused by fossil fuel, and also the indoor pollution for many women because of bad cooking on coal or wood or animal dung, particularly in Africa. Some 900 women and their children are affected by the fact that they don't have electricity and they have to cook on bad cooking materials. So these are very real, but also the importance of food and food security and the climate shocks that farmers are enduring, and the need, as I'm sure you've discussed, to incentivize the kind of farming that will bring us forward, the sustainable, conservative, regenerative, organic farming. We need to not only support farmers to be at the heart of sustainability, we have to make sure that they too feel it is worthwhile and that their produce is affordable. Organic produce should not be for those who have big incomes and can afford to buy in that way. It should be mainstream that we support and want organic food, and we want sustainable food systems and systemic food systems. I know this has been discussed a great deal at the international level. It's very good that you've discussed it from a European perspective in this conference. While these have obviously been the concerns and the intersectionality of those concerns that you've been discussing, I hope that you've also focused attention on solutions, because that's what we need at the moment. I want to encourage very strongly positive thinking, because frankly, we're running out of time, and the climate and nature crisis is worsening every day, it seems. Scientists are more and more urgent about it. There is, in fact, a huge paradox in our world today. We're on the cusp of a clean energy, safer climate system. And at the same time, we're heading for catastrophe this century. At present, even if all the commitments that governments have been making about net zero, etc., and all the commitments of investors and of corporations and of philanthropy and everyone, even if that's all implemented, we're still heading for a 2.4 degree warming world. In other words, we're not on course yet, not on course yet. And why is that? I think there are two broad reasons for it. Firstly, because governments are not treating the climate and nature crisis as a crisis. They're not in a crisis mindset. And the reason, in a way, they're not is because people are not. The media are not. We are more aware of the fact that there are climate effects all over the world and climate shocks all over the world. It's not just for developing countries anymore, but we're still not in climate mode. And you know, when you're in climate, then that takes over, and you have to move. Secondly, there's a huge communications on the other side, the dark side, misinformation, trying to prolong fossil fuels indefinitely into the future, spending $4 billion a year approximately by the fossil fuel lobby. And there is no counter to this. There's no connecting us all in a big communications in the right direction. And that's where I just want to briefly talk about something called Project Dandelion. You can Google it and you'll get you know, more information from the website of Project Dandelion. It's a women-led strategy, and it's not women only, just women-led, which wants to connect the millions and millions of people around the world, all over the world, indigenous communities, young people, business, etc., who are working for a climate positive, safe world. And why the dandelion? Because it's the only flower or weed that grows on all 7 continents. It's very resilient. If you want to get rid of it as a weed, you pretty well can't. It's also regenerative. The roots are very good for the soil, as farmers are learning. And you can eat or drink every part of the dandelion. It's used in teas, it's used in wine, it's used in food, in salads, etc. And its roots take the toxins out of the body. And finally, how do you spread it? You blow. It's a very light touch way of connecting imaginatively. And if we can do this, if we can all connect imaginatively, we build our people power. We build a huge positive sense that we're on the cusp and we're going to get over that hill into that safer climate world. And it's in our hands. We need to pressure and to persuade governments to take the right decisions, to treat the climate and nature crisis as a crisis, and to incentivize all the ways in which we can move faster. Incentive moving faster, incentivize, retrofitting of houses, growing of organic products, all of the changes that we need. So I hope that you leave this conference here in Dublin, this European conference, feeling hopeful and positive and determined, because that's what we need. We need people to know that it is in our hands and we can do it if we connect with each other and show our power and speak to governments with the urgency of dealing with a crisis. And I want to end with the words of Nelson Mandela, who said very succinctly, "It always seems impossible until it is done." Thank you.
It's always very inspiring to hear Mary Robinson speak, so I hope you'll bring home some messages from her there. Our next speaker is Dr. John Cuddihy. He's the National Director of Public Health at the Health Service Executive in Ireland, and he's previously held positions as the Director of Health Protection Surveillance Centre and the National Director of Health Protection in Ireland. Welcome, John.
Good afternoon, everybody. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate the organisers on a fantastic conference and to thank them for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today about the public health reform programme that we're undertaking in Ireland at the moment. So this programme began with an external review of the current and future role, training and career structures of public health physicians in Ireland. And that report recommended that the Health Service Executive here develop a significantly and possibly even radically different organisational model for public health. And that was further supported by the 2017 Sláinte Care report. Sláinte Care is our reform programme plan for the health services more widely in Ireland. Another report was the Scally report on our national cervical screening programme, and in that, Dr. Scally recommended that the skills of public health physicians must be deployed across the domains of public health medicine and the health services in general. And he spoke about embedding public health within the health system in order to improve the quality and patient safety. So the HSE Public Health Reform Programme then was mobilised in 2019 under the governance of our Chief Clinical Officer to progress the design and development of a new model for public health aligned to the recommendations of the aforementioned report. So our model then, our enhanced public health model, is a hub and spoke model with a strong nationally integrated public health function strategically aligned within the HSE and 6 public health areas aligned to the Sláinte care areas. We did have 10 public health departments in Ireland prior to this. We have reformed governance and operating structures within public health, introducing a more fit-for-purpose national and area management structure. Another element of the model is to bring strong clinical leadership across each of the pillars of public health practice, namely health protection, health intelligence, health service improvement, and health improvement. Because again, prior to a couple of years ago, the emphasis was very much on the legislated health protection function. So we want to broaden that remit and rebalance it. Another key element of the reform programme is the development of enhanced multidisciplinary teams to optimise service delivery. Following on from the COVID pandemic, our health protection hub was the first and is now the most established. And that health protection model aims to provide a nationally and regionally integrated all hazards health protection service mandated by our Medical Officer of Health legislation and with clear health area and national responsibilities per the provision of that health protection service. And the 4 pillars within that all hazards model are threats, programme and preparedness, acute operations and response, immunisation and surveillance and epidemiology. But as I mentioned, the aim of reform in Ireland is to rebalance the work of public health across the other domains and the other agencies, including our screening services, quality and patient safety, cancer control, child health, and so on. And we have used the WHO essential public health functions as the backbone of that strategy. There has been an assessment of Ireland's public health system in relation to how well it aligns with the essential public health operations, and that's been a very useful guide for us. I mentioned our blueprint for the wider health system in Ireland, Sláinte care, and prevention and public health are at the core of Sláinte care, and the public health skills that we feel we can bring to bear are population-based approach to planning health and social care with a focus on addressing health inequalities. Public health are in the process now of developing population health profiles for the health regions and population needs assessments. And directors of public health in each of the areas and national leads are bringing strategic and system leadership to the executive decision making in those areas. I mentioned health inequalities. Again, in our public health strategy, there is a focus on improving health equity and reducing health inequalities. We were fortunate enough last year to have Professor Sir Michael Marmot speak at our inaugural National Public Health Conference. And again, as a guide to our programme of reduction of health inequalities, the Marmot principles are serving us well. Finally, I suppose I just want to say that in undertaking a change management programme of this magnitude, culture is something that we've paid close attention to, and we have reinvigorated the Values in Action programme across the whole of the public health system. And this programme emphasises the need for respect, compassion and collegiality in what we do. So in brief, that's what we're doing in terms of public health reform in this country. I believe that public health is and needs to be more and more global in its perspective. And I think conferences like this enable that way of thinking and that way of working. So I look forward to Lisbon 2024. Thank you very much.
now have the pleasure of asking our colleague Iveta Nagyova to come to the podium and award some nice prizes.
Great pleasure to announce you the prize winners of the 16th European Public Health Conference, the Best Posters Prize, the highest scoring abstract and Ference Bojan Award. And these prizes come also with a conference waiver registration fee for the next European Public Health Conference. So the Best Poster Prize winner is Cuddihy from Cienzano, Belgium, with the topic Women's Health Report for Belgium, addressing the information gap. Is she here? Aline, are you here? Okay, please come here to the podium. I would like to ask the winners to come to the podium to hand over. Okay, yeah. I was instructed by the photographer that we should stand here. Thanks. Thank you. With the highest scoring abstract, we have a very interesting situation this year because two abstracts scored exactly the same score, 6.5, which is a very high score from a 0 to 7. And the highest scoring abstracts are for Raffaele Palladino from Public Health Policy Evaluation Unit, Imperial College School of Public Health, UK, Out-of-Pocket Expenditure and Mortality in the Elderly in Europe, a longitudinal analysis, 2006 and 20. Is he here? Raffaele? Please. Congratulations. Great. Raffaele. Okay, and the second winner is Marta Rado from Karolinska Institutet from Sweden. And the topic is socioeconomic inequalities in smoking and drinking and adolescence, social network dynamics. And I can tell you an interesting background information. She was also among winners of our nominees for the Ference Bojan Memorial because she's a young researcher under 35 years. So Marta, are you here? Okay, so she will receive the prize after that. And now I would like to announce you the Ference Bojan Young Investigator Award winner. But before I tell you, I would like to give a couple of words on what this award entails and why we are doing it. So since 1997, EUPHA has installed a Ference Bojan Lecture Award in a memory of the EUPHA president who tragically died from a car accident in Hungary in February in 1997. He was a Hungarian public health professional from the University of Debrecen. The 5 highest scoring abstracts from young professionals under 35 years are invited to present their abstracts to a small committee. And the committee combines abstracts with the presentation, so not only the quality of abstract is important, but also the quality of the presentation. And the winner of the Ference Bojan Award, just like the poster winners and the higher scoring abstracts, is receiving a waiver of registration fee for the next European Public Health Conference. And the winner is Duke Besseling from Hanse Hogeschool Groningen, the Netherlands. The topic is changes in health of older adults during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was also a longitudinal cohort study. Many congratulations. Thank you. So, thank you very much, and once again, congratulations to all the winners.
It's my very great pleasure to introduce the Lisbon conference, and I'll ask my colleague Ricardo Mexia, who's taking on this role for that, after you see a video showcasing the quite extraordinary beauties of Lisbon. I have just one word for you: go. The video.
So thank you so much, Anthony, for inviting me to the stage and for inviting also everybody to come to Lisbon. But first, I need to thank you. We need to thank you and your team for this amazing conference that we've had the chance for these amazing 4 days. Thank you so much, Anthony. It's been really impressive to see what you've accomplished here. And that actually sets a very high bar for us to match. So we'll be looking forward to work as hard as you did to make this happen. And yes, this is a picture of Lisbon. We're going back to Lisbon after 2008. And we hope to welcome you at this 17th European Public Health Conference. The overarching theme is sailing the waves of European public health, exploring a sea of innovation. And actually, this will encompass all the different sub-themes, workshops, and hopefully you'll enjoy your stay there. And this is actually a view from where the conference is taking place, just near the 25 de Abril bridge. We have 5 sub-themes which will outline the 5 plenaries. So we'll have AI in public health, One Health from an animal perspective, we'll have health inequalities, we'll have social marketing in public health, and also global health. And also take the chance to let you know that we're planning to have, prior to the European Public Health Conference, Portuguese-speaking public health conference. You're all very welcome. We'll ensure that there's translation so that those that don't speak Portuguese are able to follow as well. But it will be bridging both Portugal and its maritime tradition with Brazil, with the African countries, with the countries in Asia, such as Timor. So we're looking forward to welcome you there also for that pre-Congress. The venue will be the Lisbon Congress Center, which is the same venue for those that attended in 2008. And it will have all the requirements for the parallel sessions, for the plenaries, so we'll look forward to welcome you there. But the conference should not only be about these 4 days that we share every year. Of course, we were here together sharing our public health values, given our differences in generation, in geography, in fields of public health. But we feel that we should actually expand that further the limits of the conference center. So we're having a monthly webinar to ramp up for the conference. And the first webinar will take place on the 12th of December at 5 p.m. And the topic will be global health. We'll soon announce the speakers and spread the news through the different channels. So please participate, and there's actually an added value for you to take part in these webinars. We're planning to draft one seat at the gala dinner for each of the webinars, and we'll have a quiz. And at the end of the webinars, the person who has had the most correct and fast answers will get a waiver for the conference in Lisbon. So do attend, do participate. We're hoping to make it very interactive. We have the social program as well. We have the welcome reception prepared at the city center at Pátio da Galé. We'll have the gala dinner at Estufa Fria. Estufa Fria is a pavilion just next to the botanical garden. So in order to get to the dinner, you'll need to wander around the botanical garden to reach the place where we'll have both the dinner, but also a party with dancing. And yesterday we had the chance to dance Irish dance. So we're looking forward to dance several European dances. So bring your dancing shoes for the dinner. What we also like to invite you is to stay a little bit longer. Either come early or stay longer, because this time we don't even have the conference on the weekend, as was already shared. So we'll start on Tuesday and go until Friday. So if you do have the chance, stay over for the weekend and enjoy the city that will welcome you surely over this whole week. So do come to Lisbon. We'll be expecting you. For those of you who had stayed until the end, we have a small gift. So at the doors, you'll find two colleagues who will share with you. Some of you already have them because they were at the stand, but the conference organizers were kind enough to produce these keychains that are made of cork, which is a sustainable product. So do take one home to remind you to come to Lisbon next year. See you in Lisbon.
My very last official action as chair of the conference is to say thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who made it happen. Thank you to our extraordinary ensemble of speakers. And the conference is finished. Safe home.